Hello everyone, welcome into this new breakdown video in which I'm going to talk about what happened when I made my latest painting, which is a fan art of Wharhammer 40,000, if you don't know, called Chaos Spawn. So, as usual for this piece, the overall process is going to be line, a little bit overview, and then applying colors. And I'm really going to try to speak a little bit about the struggles and the things I observed during my during the process of making this painting. I wanted to make it like to make a more contained and easy to do kind of thing compared to the last one, which was more the topic was more complex. It had several characters and the storytelling was more rich, and so it took me more time to think a little bit about how to tell the story and how to play the different elements. While here it's supposed to be only a simple character. It's supposed to be one character in a blurred environment with a lot of a foggy environment. So it was supposed to be like a funnier piece, like something in which I could lose more time in rendering and having more fun and as everything was smaller and less complex in terms of storytelling, I would be able to focus on, let's say, a little bit more the design and everything would be more under control, which in certain aspect it was. However, I quickly fell into the same kind of let's say bad habits I tend to have in my painting, and for example over rendering. And I quickly understood that whatever I want to do, I think it's kind of a general thing, whatever we want to do, if we want to do it correctly, it takes time and energy. So I wanted it to be cool, of course, and so it took me time, even if it's quote simpler than the last painting I made. So the design, during the design, I struggled a lot with the perspective, because I know that the way the different part of the body, when you try to make a figure or a character or creature, if you want to have like a good dynamism in the pose, in the gesture of your character, or any type of element, you need to be really like really cautious with things like how is it called? The strength lines, like the curve, etc. And so to give the character that Chaos Space Marine, that kind of imposing, and like he's supposed to lean forward the viewer, I knew it was important for me to really be to really be careful of to really be careful. Sorry if I struggle with English. To really be careful about the orientations of the different elements, and to really give a good sense of the orientation of the different elements, I had to be careful with perspective and proportion. And as those two different aspects of painting are things I'm not, let's say, comfortable with, I basically had difficulties and had to come back and to correct them, which you are going to see soon. Right now I'm more, as you can see, I'm more like trying to figure out the design, and I've really forced myself to stay a long time in line art to really try to know what I was going to do before jumping into rendering, which is a mistake I tended to make a lot in the past, making a rough line and then jumping into colors or values first and then colors, and quite late in the process of rendering, I would see that there is a problem with basic construction things like perspective, proportions, design, etc., which was forcing me to go back and correcting it. So, and making me lose time. So here I'm really playing around with line art and really trying to be more serious in terms of perspective, as I said, and proportions. and really be careful. For example, the chest plate and the effect of the perspective really distort everything. And as his shoulders are like bent, the orientation of the shoulders give all that motion on the upper body and the upper plate, so the breastplate. And so I had to be very careful about that orientation. As you can see here, I made some kind of reference lines to really try to be correct in the way I would orient the different elements. And again, like usual, one of the great things about Photoshop and digital painting is the ability to use all the different tools, such for example as the liquify, which I use quite a lot. It made me win quite a lot of time compared to more traditional media. So as you can see on the belly part, the rotation, I try to really give a good sense of rotation of the different elements, like these tubes. I really try to make them turn one compared to the other. They are oriented differently because the legs and the shoulders are oriented differently, and so that whole part of the body is supposed to show that orientation change. And I apologize, a little bit of a disclaimer, but I apologize for my difficulties to speak and to express myself in English sometimes. But yeah, it's not always easy. So I'm quite happy of the overall design of the thing. There are some elements I think I didn't really knew how to represent. Maybe I should have played a little bit with the lore aspect of the painting, as it's a fan art, so there is some kind of background story already existing. For example, the creature is originally an ultramarine, so kind of a good guy, but he has been corrupted by chaos and became a bad mutated guy. But I didn't really. Maybe I should have played a little bit with the lore of the characters of the ultramarines to try to insert more like signs and details that will reflect the story and the universe of Wharhammer 40k, which is definitely something I will keep in mind for my future if I do again the fan art. So something I really like to do now is to separate, to create shadows with two values. So when I jump in shadows, I start with a one value shadow, so let's say a kind of a cell shading, simple cell shading, and it allows me to really focus on the light and really try to think about the different volumes and the objects and how they are going to project shadows on each other, and also keeping the rendering very easy and quick at first allow me to change things very easily. For example, as it was visible a little bit earlier in the video, I changed the lighting configuration quite. I tried some different lighting configuration, and of course, as I wasn't really far away in rendering, it was easy to those modifications were quite easy to make compared to, for example, here when the rendering is more advanced. I'm really trying to keep my shadows simple. So as I said, working with two value shadows, trying to reproduce that effect of a light bouncing everywhere. So the part of the shadow which is closest to the light, the main light source, is going to be darker, and then the rest of the shadow is progressively going to be lighter, which is caused by the lighting, the lights of the environment coming back in the back of the shadow. I hope I am clear, by the way. It's I have difficulties to talk about technical stuff like this. And a bad note, though, is that still at this point, I'm not really sure. I didn't really know what I was going to do with the background. I knew the background was going to be very simple, so simple lights, maybe some effect of fire and fog and particle and dust, etc. But overall, I didn't want it to make like an impressive and crazy type of environment filled with details. I wanted to really focus on the character. So I used a gradient map, as you saw. I used a gradient map to inject a first, let's say, pass of colors, and afterward, in the process of working my colors, I understood that I didn't do it the right or the most efficient way. It would have been better for me to place flat colors on the creature, and then using maybe a gradient map to simulate the effect of the lighting, which, for example, behind the character is going to be a fire, in front of the character is more like a spot or a natural white light. And so these lights are going to, the colors of the light is going to influence the color of the armor, which is supposed to be a blue. And so I came with flat colors afterwards, but I kind of lost a little bit of time, so it's something that I will definitely think about that in the future. It's kind of a rule. The more I work, the more I find that rule to be working in pretty much every case. Is to start simple and then try to add things progressively. And so starting with flat colors is kind of seems to be the logically the easiest and most efficient way, at least for me right now, to create my colors and to throw something at first, something that works quickly and plays a basic element quickly. So yeah, it was quite a fun experience. I think I'm going to try to, in the future, to restrain myself more and more with the type of tools I can use during my paintings, because one of the things I've learned is that when I'm making, for example, working in traditional, something I observed is that the limitation of traditional media, such as, let's say, black ink, simply put, the limitations of traditional media is forcing me to really pre-think things more. So I can really feel it, that the way the tool I use will shape how my brain is taking the problem. So if I have to draw something, I'm not going to think about it the same way if I'm drawing it in traditional or if I'm drawing it in digital. And it goes with pretty much every kind of different type of tool I'm going to use. If I use let's say pens, simple pens, or if I'm going to use oil painting or what, it's going to change my way to approach the problem, and the painting is going to be different. And what I think is that using traditional media, and not necessarily traditional media, but putting myself restrictions, so telling myself I can use, let's say, smooth, so I can only use hard brushes, will force me to take the problem in a better way, instead of having all these options and getting lost, which happened at the end of the painting. I was a little bit lost because there is so much thing you can modify the thing endlessly in digital, in traditional too, but in digital I think it's even more quote a problem, because you have all these effect layers and all these blending options which allow you to constantly rework lighting, rework colors, saturation, contrast. You can use a layer to add contrast, and you can use sharpen, unsharp mask, which is going to create which is going to make everything pop. But if you do that, it might, it always takes you away from kind of your original vision, or at least my original vision. And I constantly say, I can put more contrast here, and that place is better with more contrast. But it means that I have to add more contrast there, and I have to rework the color there. So it's kind of a never-ending process, and I have a hard time focusing on something and stopping myself, which means that at the end of my painting, I stop not because I'm sure it's perfect, but because I don't really know what to do anymore, and I could keep on modifying things, but then it will simply modify the painting, so the painting will be completely different. And it's important for me to be able to stop myself, which is why I'm going to work more in tradition in the future, or to simply use more restrictions, like restrictions of time, restrictions of type of tool I can use, not being able to use liquify, not being able to use something like always use hard brushes instead of using brushes with pressure sensitivity, opacity variations, which is not necessarily the best thing to do your painting, but to me it's a very good thing to do to learn new ways, and this is what I need right now in my learning process, because I'm just a student. So a lot of back and forth movement in that painting again. I modified things, had new ideas, had to change back, and I'm starting to think that it's kind of unavoidable. I thought in the past I thought that it was something I would improve. So being able to have a more straight idea of what to do and how to do it. But the more I work, and the more it doesn't really go away. In every project I have the same problem, which maybe is going to change with more experience, but until now even experience doesn't seem to really change that. It's really that difficulty to really mentally represent myself what I want to do. Not to say that you should have like a precise and a clear idea of what you want to do directly, like when you start your drawing you know exactly every detail, of course not. There's a need to do some mistake, research, experimentation and iterations if you want to have a good design. I'm perfectly aware of that. But I still feel that it's kind of a bad side, like not a bad side, but a problem quote that I have is that it's not necessarily that I don't have a crystal clear, precise idea of what I want to do, but more like I have no precise idea at all. I really don't really know what I'm starting. I have a really general blurry idea. Like here I wanted to do a Chaos Space Marine in an impressive position to make something cool. But I didn't have like in terms of design, etc. And you don't see it here, but with the painting I did some paper research, some ink research for the design of the creature and its armor. And I had the same problem. I didn't knew what kind of direction to take. I was doing something, and then, oh, I like that. And then doing something different, I like that too. I don't know which one is better, which one should I choose. So I have a hard time being my own art director. And it's definitely something I need to practice and be more serious. Like something I should really take as a serious problem and force myself to do more projects like this one so I can improve in that aspect. Because as we all know, we need to always search for what we're bad at, and just do it to be good at. Or at least it's what seems to be the most intelligent thing to do. So here I'm really into the big, long phase of continuous rendering, and as I said, going back and forth between design, but also between lighting, between colors. I feel like I tend to really go into exaggeration. I want to have it all in my paintings. like in terms of dynamic lightings, like video games. In terms of dramatic lightings and textures, etc. I tend to want to put everything like a strong highlight and then strong colors and strong shadows and strong everything. But in the end, I feel like I have a hard time focusing the attention of the spectator. So it's definitely something I will ask to the viewers and to the people on the internet. I'm going to see the feedback regarding the readability and overall dynamism of the image. Is it something that looks dynamic and interesting and pleasing to the eye, or is it too messy and filled with details and things like that? I think that I didn't really thought much about composition in that image, except maybe some very basic rules such as the rule of third. But in terms, for example, of focalizing the highest point of contrast into the point of interest, I don't think it's the case much. I have a pretty high numbers of white points a little bit everywhere, and the contrast and details of texture are very important a little bit everywhere. So I don't think that that they are those aspects of the painting are very interesting in terms of image composition. Everything is very evenly rendered. So I'll see the feedback about that. I really like to work. The end was definitely one of the most funny thing to do. It's kind of a combination. It was really a chaotic design because I didn't had precise idea of what to do and what was going to be there. It's kind of using the excuse of the fact it's a chaotic corruption. So a little bit of about the background and the law of the universe. There's a place called chaos, which is roughly and simply put a kind of a parallel dimension in which emotions and energies are different and influence matter that can be distorted and changed. And so it was really funny to think about that character, which is supposed to be originally he is supposed to be kind of a superhuman mankind defensor, but he has been corrupted by the chaos, and so his armor has all these strange semi-organic shapes which are kind of grew on him as the corruption progressed. So it was a really fun, chaotic, organic, metallic type of design. It was really fun to work, and it doesn't have much logic. Like there is some element that come back, like all the tube, etc. But most of the time, it's really something that I was finding on the fly, working on it, and then progressively, that shape, it could be a tube, that shapes, it can be a texture, or that kind of thing. So I don't think I should have maybe worked a little bit more on the shoulder plate, especially the one with the thing that gets out of it, oh god, I don't know if I'm going to be able to say that word. That extrusion, I don't know, excroissance in French, but in English I don't know. Whatever. So it was interesting, but I could have found something more interesting than a simple bony structure that gets out of its shoulder. But I wanted to advance in the project, and it took me quite a time. I think it took me something like 20 hours to make, or something like that. And one of my main reference for the lights and the colors is Dave Rapozza, of course. I really like the complexity and the when I watch one of his painting, I feel like it have a lot of impact. Like it's very strong. It's a personal feeling, of course. Some people might disagree, but it's something I try to reproduce here, to have that kind of sharp, textured look, which I really like. I will let you judge if it's if I am successful or not on that aspect. So yeah, what else to say? Working a little bit, making the textures was challenging too in that painting, because I really wanted to make the materials look like what they were supposed to be, like metal and painted armor and bone, etc. So during the process of making the painting, let's say 5 hours before the end of the painting, I decided to take a pause and to stop working on it, and I made some studies, some material studies, sorry, which is not something I'm used to do. I haven't made much material studies before. But of course, as every study, they were very educational, and I learned to focus, for example, my specularity on the material, which is, at this stage, it's very even. It's a very it's the same a little bit everywhere. And I also learned, because I've always been a little bit afraid of texture. Like, I'm used to work from blurred to precise and sharp, but that process kind of creates that absence of chaos, which is necessary to stimulate my creativity. So, for example, when you what we call happy accidents. So you put some random stuff on your canvas, and then your brain is trying to make some sense of it, and you will see shapes, and it will then give you idea, and give you some ideas, and you will shape them. And as you progress in your painting, if you allow yourself to have enough chaos and enough messiness, but not too much to get something that doesn't go anywhere, but if you have enough messiness, your painting, you start to have it generates idea, especially for very detailed kind of textures and things with a lot of bumps and shapes and in which the frequency of detail is very big. And so it's something I learned. Again, it come back to what I said, the fact that I'm going to force myself to work with rougher brushes from now on, because I really felt like the way they interact with each other, creating all these little shapes and colors and etc. It kind of helps creating interesting textures compared to soft brushes. So you are going to see me testing stuff about I was trying to reproduce that bloom effect, that kind of light bouncing shiny effect. And so I played with blending modes, like still trying to figure out what is the best between overlay and color dodge and all the different blending options, especially to create that bright light effect. For the fire is going to be visible too. Little note about the fire: if you want to know a very good way to make easy fire, I recommend you to watch the Level Up interview of oh gosh, I always forget his name, of that very cool and talented artist, which I can't find the name. Come on. Well, I will put an annotation. But basically, it's the principle is to use a black layer in which you paint on white. You put it on a group. On top of the black layer, you create a gradient map that take the colors of the fire, and then you paint on the black layer and you put your gradient map in a specific blending mode. I forget it, I will put it on the screen. And that combination allows you to create that kind of fiery effect very quickly. So simple brushstroke, you don't have to worry about making like the red extremities and then the orange and then the white parts and all the things. Everything is one brush stroke and you get everything. So it might not be perfect, but it's a very quick way to make a solid fire, a solid base for your fire. So I'm approaching the ending, and it's as I said, it's sharpening and adding details from now on. I'm going to intensify the backlight several times, and because I tend to, like I say, I want it all. So when I see I can make it stronger, I make it stronger, and then I see I can make it even stronger, so I make it even stronger. And I tend to have maybe stuff that is very rich and with, as I said, a lot of details and a lot of saturated places. So yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process from now on. I played, as you just saw, I played with accent in English. In French, it's accentuation, but in English, it's unsharp mask, I think, which is very cool to create that sharp metallic effect on different elements. It's really something I would recommend it. If you're making metal, definitely use unsharp mask. Is going to like crank it up at max. Well, maybe not at max, but crank it up high, and you will see it will really enhance the sharpness of your metal. It's not. I wouldn't recommend to use it on everything though, because it's going to give that sharp, crispy look on every element, which is not necessarily something you would want to have, especially if you want to have like really realistic type of materials, well rendered materials to be precise. So as you can see here, testing stuff out with blending modes to intensify the backlight, because why not, put it an intense backlight, because that fire around him and he's like rah in front and dramatic lighting and all those things. It's more going to be playing with blending modes and effects from now on, and then I'm going to go back to a little bit of painting. Then I'm going to finally to put the finalization. I struggled quite a lot with the layers configuration, which is something I feel like I try not to get trapped in that, like working with separated layers. It's very useful. I really understand that, especially if you have a lot of effects like this. And for a lot of other reasons, it accelerates the process of the production process. But I feel that when I have too many layers and when I have complex like effects, or effects like the fire, which is not on one planes, a part of the fire and the fog is passing on front of the character. So it kind of, and if you combine that with different blending modes, it kind of gets, at least for me, it can become pretty limiting and messy after a certain time, which is why I create several layers, then I don't hesitate to merge everything and to paint over it and then create another layer. I really try to adapt a way to use the different digital tools to adopt a methodology that depends on the situation. So I don't have like a very straightforward way to think to do things. Like I'm going to use this layer for these elements and I'm going to stick to that configuration for every painting. It really changes with time, like in the painting itself, depending on the situation, the different elements I want to represent. For example, the hand in the foreground, I separated it several times. I did my stuff, you know, put some effects and then painted over everything. Then I separated the hand, replaced it on top of everything to add more effects that will only affect the back elements, and then started over and adding other effects on top of everything, repainting on top of everything, reseparating some elements depending on what I wanted to do. Like if I want to work on the cleanness, on the texture of a specific element, if I feel like separating that element for the time being is going to help me get faster, then I'm going to do it. But it's not like something I will do all the time. I'm not going to do it. Like I said, I don't have like a specific sets of steps to follow. I kind of adapt myself to the situation and to the decisions I take during the production process. So yeah, after talking with friends, and that's very important, it's going to be one of my last thing in this video to say, find good friends that will give you good tips. I wouldn't personally rely too much on an open online critique system like Facebook, because it can get pretty messy and people will give you critiques. Sometimes I feel to give critiques without necessarily telling you stuff that is really helping you. So find talented, motivated people, friends that will critique your work, so it's more efficient and it goes quicker. So here we go, it's the end of the video. 20 or so hours in the making. It was really fun and cool to do. I hope you enjoyed that video, that it was helpful, and don't hesitate to tell me what you thought about it. Don't hesitate to tell me if you think there is something I could do better in the format. I apologize again for my English, but I don't prepare my video when I don't prepare my speech, so I kind of have to find stuff to say on the fly. So yeah, be motivated, paint a lot, and see you in the next video. Bye.